Welcome back, viewers. You're watching World DNA. I'm Shivan Channa. Let's start.
And my name is Haim Khorsara, and on the show today, US Vice President Kamala Harris officially conceded defeat but vowed not to concede the fight that fueled her campaign. What will Trump 2.0 mean for global affairs and geopolitics? We'll track all of that closely for you on the show today.
Also on World DNA, after the uproar in Israel, after Israeli Prime Minister's decision to remove Yoav Gallant as Israel's defense minister, Israel continues to intensify its strikes against the Hezbollah group. In the latest, Hezbollah chief says indirect talks on a ceasefire are possible, but only if Israel stops its attacks on Lebanon. We'll bring you all the details on that front as well. Let's start you off with that.
But we must accept the results of this election.
Kamala Harris officially concedes to Donald Trump, tells supporters they must accept the results of the US presidential election.
US presidential election winner Donald Trump speaks to President Biden, accepts invitation for a White House meeting to discuss transitioning between administrations.
US Special Counsel prosecutors likely to shut down their criminal cases against Donald Trump before he takes office. As per reports, this as per Justice Department policy that says sitting presidents cannot be prosecuted.
Former President Barack Obama congratulates Donald Trump, noting the importance of a peaceful transfer of power. Bill and Hillary Clinton also wish Trump and J.D. Vance well after winning the election.
Germany's Free Democrats Party says all its ministers will quit the ruling coalition after Chancellor Olaf Scholz sacks party's rebellious finance minister Christian Lindner from the government.
Australia will move to pass new laws banning children under the age of 16 from social media. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said this on Thursday, vowing to crack down on tech companies failing to protect young users.
Australian breakdancer Rachel Gunn announces her retirement, citing a really upsetting backlash following her performance at the Paris Olympics. All right, top story from the United States this morning. After Donald Trump's victory in the US election, Special Counsel Jack Smith is said to be evaluating how to wind down the two federal cases against the president-elect.
And this is before he takes office in January. This in light of the Justice Department's policy that says sitting presidents cannot be prosecuted. Smith charged Trump last year with plotting to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election and illegally hoarding classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago estate. But Trump's election victory means that he can no longer face prosecution, as the Justice Department policy put in place in 2000 states that the indictment or criminal prosecution of a sitting president would unconstitutionally undermine the capacity of the executive branch to perform its constitutionally assigned functions.
By moving to wind down the cases before the inauguration in January, Smith and the Justice Department would be averting a potential showdown with Trump, who said as recently as last month that he would fire Smith within 2 seconds of taking office. It would also mean Trump would enter the White House without the legal cloud of federal criminal prosecutions that once carried the potential for felony convictions and prison sentences.
US Vice President Kamala Harris officially conceded defeat to her Republican rival Donald Trump in the 2024 presidential election.
That being said, Kamala Harris has vowed not to concede the fight that fueled her campaign. Listen to this.
The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright. As long as we never give up and as long as we keep fighting.
Her supporters at Howard cheered for her as she urged them to accept the result of the election. She also told them she had declared winner Trump to congratulate him.
Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power.
Now, Harris warned of a dark time but ended her speech calling for optimism and faith.
I know many people feel like we are entering a dark time, but for the benefit of us all, I hope that is not the case. But here's the thing, America, if it is, let us fill the sky with the light of a brilliant, brilliant billion of stars. The light of optimism, of faith, of truth, and service. H.U. And may that work guide us, even in the face of setbacks, toward the extraordinary promise of the United States of America.
Trump won the US presidential election for a second term, handing Harris a defeat in one of the most remarkable comebacks in American electoral history. The Republican won more than half of the US states, including key battlegrounds Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan and Wisconsin, all of which voted Democratic in the last election. And that gave him 295 electoral votes as against Harris 226. Final calls were yet to be made, of course, later, but that was the result and he was declared the winner.
All right, for more on this, we're now being joined live by Tom Cronin from Colorado. He's a political analyst, author, film producer, and a former White House staff. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on World DNA this morning.
It's good to be with you.
Mr. Cronin, I believe at this point the most obvious question is, where do you think the Democrat camp went wrong?
The Democrats had a difficult challenge because the incumbent president was unpopular. He had a lot of very good programs that were helping the economy and investing in American technology, but he himself was not a great communicator, and he became unpopular over a 2 or 3 year period, and that made it very hard for his vice president to run a campaign in a short period. American elections usually go on for a year or two. She had to run a campaign in slightly over 100 days. And she ran a good campaign, but Donald Trump had been running for 9 years, including serving one term as president himself. So the Democrats had a tough time. There were two issues that were very challenging for the Democratic ticket this year. One was inflation, which is coming down now, but which a lot of working class Americans were concerned about in terms of the price of groceries and gasoline and so on. And another one was the large number of illegal immigrants that are coming over our southern border. And that was an issue that the Democrats had failed to address adequately during the Biden administration. And Vice President Kamala Harris had a very difficult time coming up with new ideas or fresh ideas that were convincing.
Mr. Cronin, as far as the figures that have come in of the vote share, majority of the white voters, men and women, they voted for Trump. Even the Hispanics, the majority of the black men and women, they voted for Harris. A lot of voices, after seeing certain details, said America was not ready for a woman president of mixed race. Is your assessment of that different, or do you differ in opinion?
I'm afraid to say that there is some prejudice among some Americans towards women and towards people who are recent immigrants. Kamala Harris was a first-generation American, and she also was in an interracial marriage, which bothers some Americans, not many these days. But she probably was the recipient of unwanted and wrong-headed prejudice. Yes, I don't think that may have been the determining factor in the election. In an election that was very close, in many states, it may have been a factor.
Right, Mr. Cronin, of course, let's talk about some of Trump's policies as well, just to get an idea of what Trump's presidency is going to mean for the United States. And of course, global affairs as well. He has already spoken of a blanket 10% tariff on all imported goods, his push to ensure European nations pay more for their security, and his clear ambition to stop the Russia-Ukraine war. He has also said that he will stop all wars. We've also heard about his stance on immigration. So what does a Trump presidency mean?
Well, he's made a lot of promises and he's done a lot of bragging. It remains to be seen. The Congress is going to be quite divided, even though it looks as though it may be controlled by his own party, political party. But he has said all those things that you're talking about, and I think he'll scale back some of the promises. On the immigration issue, for example, he's talked about mass deportation, which might involve millions of Americans who are undocumented or without citizenship. My own prediction is that he'll go after and work on trying to deport those who have a criminal record or who are involved in drug traffic. And so his overall policy will be modified in one way or another, at least in the first year or two. He does brag about his fondness for tariffs. He used tariffs a lot in his economic trade negotiations when he was in office 4 years ago. And one interesting thing on this matter is that a lot of people in the business community and investment community are less keen about tariffs because of their inflationary and economic impact, particularly on working class Americans. So I suspect that his tariff proposals will be introduced, but will be watered down by his advisors and by members even of his own political party.
Mr. Cronin, from the European perspective, do you feel Europe, the entire Union at this point, would be looking at this next term of Trump with a lot of caution because they are concerned, given the kind of statements he has already made in his campaign? Especially, I'm referring to the statement regarding NATO nations not paying enough for their defense expenditure.
You're correct. He has said those statements, and he acted on that when he was president 4 years ago, or 5 years ago, and he succeeded in getting NATO nations to contribute more of their defense budgets to the NATO overall military assignment. I think he'll continue to do that. He has found that a popular issue in America and in his political party here, and European leaders are justifiably cautious about Trump because he he's unpredictable, and he has a certain amount of swagger and an attitude of America first, and he is less of an internationalist than many of the leaders in both political parties, and he's more of an American first or a nationalistic kind of leader. He's also a populist leader, and as you know, in your country and around all of Europe, populism has taken hold in a way that's not only anti-immigrants, but involved in encouraging nationalism. And he's a prime example of that. But he's not alone in this country. There are many leaders in several countries who espouse similar populism kinds of views.
Mr. Cronin, regardless of what his views are, there is no denying the fact that there were no wars in his term from 2016 to 2020. And even as far as India is concerned, India's foreign policy has maintained ties across the world. But thank you so much for joining us, sir. That was Tom Cronin joining us from Colorado. Always a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you. Best wishes to you.
Yes,
All right, and our correspondent Sadhan Cibil was on the ground tracking all the latest on the mood of the Americans after Donald Trump clinched the race to the White House. Listen to this.
You know, I'm not totally up on all of his policies, but I'm going by his track record from the last time. And he was pretty good with the last time with the country, so that's what I'm going with.
And essentially, when it comes to Kamala Harris, what's your views about her? I mean, she lost, but
not very positive, you know. So.
Yeah. And why so, ma'am?
I don't like the way her and Biden had taken care of the last 4 years. So, you know, I don't trust their track record.
Trump has won the elections. I'm not going to lie, I am a little shocked because the media was quite saturated with a lot of pro-Kamala Walz administration. And you can tell that there's a lot of secret Trump supporters in our country. And I'm trying to remain hopeful for the future. I'm hoping that this administration will, this time that the administration's in office, or that did not come out right, but this time around, that there will be more unity within our country, less division.
Honestly, I don't know. I think that's part of what I'm still trying to process. I'm hoping that it'll be a little different than the last time. I'm hoping that instead of leading to more division, that we can hopefully have some more unity within our country in the next 4 years. I'm a little nervous if he's going to be able to add to that or achieve that.
I think we were ready for the change, and the American public indicated that something should happen. So in addition to Trump winning, you see a lot of other winnings for the Republican Party, and it's really a landslide of sorts. So I think it's time to embrace that change. One of the things I think that is excellent about the opportunity ahead is to be bipartisan and to look at ways that the two parties can collaborate, have a smooth transition, and move on to making things stronger for all Americans.
I'm very disappointed. I volunteered for Kamala Harris in Pennsylvania. I knocked doors for her. I'm disappointed in how the American people voted. I'm disappointed in the media.
I think Trump winning election is good for the America, as he promised that make America great again. So we are hopeful that he will bring the economy up from where we are. I mean, it's anyway right now it's not that bad, but he's gonna make it great again. So it will create more jobs for Americans. Hopefully ease the inflation down. So it will be a win-win situation for American people.
Now, among the biggest backers of Donald Trump's campaign has been one of the richest individuals in the world, Elon Musk.
No surprises there. It's been mutual admiration through the last couple of years for now. And speculation is that there is a big role for Musk in the Trump administration ahead.
Well, Trump even put out a special mention of Musk in his victory address at Palm Beach in Florida in the wee hours of Wednesday.
Oh, let me tell you, we have a new star. A star is born, Elon. No, he is. No, he's an amazing guy. We were sitting together tonight.
The Musk-Trump bonhomie goes back to 2022 after Musk bought Twitter, changed its name to X. One of the first moves Musk had made then was restoring Donald Trump's banned X account. He even ran a poll titled, "The People Have Spoken," which said nearly 52% of more than 15 million X users wanted the ban to be lifted.
Musk has been intimately involved in Trump's re-election bid since virtually turning X into a campaign platform. He donated $75 million to Trump's Political Action Committee to pave the way for his return to the White House and announced a $1 million a day giveaway to voters in swing states for signing a petition. Besides the funds, Elon Musk has openly supported Donald Trump's candidature in podcasts, interviews and social media posts. He even hosted an X space with the former president and appeared at several of his campaign rallies.
Elon Musk's alliance with Trump, it's been widely publicized too, with the two appearing together at campaign rallies, as Shivan mentioned. Musk's visibility during the election has further solidified his influence.
Trump has been more than ready to return the favor, though. At several points during the campaign, he hinted that he would consider Elon Musk for a cabinet role or an advisory post if he won. He also voiced intentions to have Musk lead an audit of government waste. It extends to big potential positives for Musk's businesses ahead, from touching regulatory issues to lower tax rates and more government contracts for Musk's companies.
There can be no missing out, however, on the China and Russia angle and possible conflicts of interest that may arise. Musk's Tesla relies heavily on China as a production base and market. He even echoed Beijing's line on Taiwan. He has taken a pro-Kremlin stance on the Russia-Ukraine war and has reportedly even spoken to Putin on the matter.
Irrespective of the China and Russia ties, it's a given now that billionaire Elon Musk will have a big role and say in the Trump administration. And there's a big conjecture and guesswork on the picture that arises from that reality.
Vote, vote, vote. Fight, fight, fight. Vote, vote, vote.
Now, there is anger in Israel over Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's decision to replace Defense Minister Yoav Gallant.
Israeli opposition leaders stepped up their rhetoric against Netanyahu, calling him unfit and illegitimate to serve the country.
פיטורי שר הביטחון גלנט אתמול הם מעשה טירוף של ראש ממשלה לא כשיר. באמצע מלחמה, בזמן שישראל נלחמת בשבע חזיתות, נתניהו החליש ופגע בצה"ל, בכוחות הלוחמים, רק כדי להעביר את חוקי ההשתמטות.
Protests erupted in different cities like Nahariya, Haifa and in Jerusalem, close to Netanyahu's residence. Israeli officers mounted on horsebacks used water cannons to disperse crowds on the streets on Tuesday.
Netanyahu's war cabinet is continuing the war against Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called Donald Trump after his election victory and discussed Iranian threats with his ally.
During the newly appointed Hezbollah chief Naim Qasim's address, Israel also issued another evacuation order in Beirut's southern suburbs. The Hezbollah chief has now warned that nowhere in Israel is off limits to Hezbollah strikes.
عندما يقرر العدو وقف العدوان هناك طريق للمفاوضات حددناه بشكل واضح. التفاوض غير المباشر عبر الدولة اللبنانية والرئيس بري الذي يحمل راية المقاومة السياسية التي تؤدي إلى مكانة لبنان وتؤدي إلى وقف العدوان.
All right, with that, it's time now for a short break.
Don't go anywhere. Of course, this is World DNA. There is lots more lined up for you on the other side. When we come back, we bring you a full report on what's happening in Germany. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has sacked his finance minister Christian Lindner. This comes as Free Democratic Party has vowed to quit Scholz's coalition. Full report on that on the other side of World DNA. Come right back after this short break.
47th president and your 45th president.
As winds of change blow in the United States, seismic movements around the world. In Israel, Netanyahu sacks his defense minister. Russia sharpens attack on Ukraine. North Korea fires fresh missiles. Taiwan holds live fire drills. WION tracks it all for you as US decides.
WION brings you a special business talk show where we bring forth the stories of business leaders.
From breakthrough technologies to visionary leadership, we will unlock the trends, the tactics, and dive into the minds of the industry's most influential leaders.
WION brings you this special series to uncover what drives them in a candid talk show, WION Business Masters.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the US.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching World DNA with Haim and I'm Shivan. Lots more lined up for you on this side of the show as well. Let's start with the headlines.
US Special Counsel prosecutors likely to shut down their criminal cases against Donald Trump before he takes office, claim reports. This as per Justice Department policy that says sitting presidents cannot be prosecuted.
Folks are feeling and experiencing a range of emotions right now. But we must accept the results of this election as long.
Kamala Harris officially concedes to Donald Trump, tells supporters they must accept the results of the US presidential election.
US presidential election winner Donald Trump speaks to President Biden, accepts invitation for a White House meeting to discuss transitioning between administrations.
Former President Barack Obama congratulates Donald Trump, noting the importance of a peaceful transfer of power. Bill and Hillary Clinton also wished Trump and J.D. Vance well after winning the election.
Germany's Free Democrats Party says all its ministers will quit the ruling coalition after Chancellor Olaf Scholz sacks the party's rebellious finance minister Christian Lindner from the government.
In a bid to strengthen relations with Afghanistan, India's foreign ministry official meets acting Defence Minister Mullah Muhammad Yaqub.
Australian breakdancer Rachel Gunn announces her retirement, citing a really upsetting backlash following her performance at the Paris Olympics. All right, our top focus on the back half hour of World DNA remains on the US election. The United States has decided it is a win for former President Donald Trump.
And you know, with Trump coming in there is a lot of talk about what it's going to mean for the global scale, whether it's Europe, whether it's America's ties with Russia, and everyone's really waiting to see whether Trump is able to re-establish those ties with Putin as he did have back in 2016 till 2020.
Right, and aside from global affairs, I believe he has set out an agenda for the things that he wishes to do on day one. That has led to a lot of anxiety and concern as well. We have to see, we have to wait and watch how that is carried out. There's talk of mass deportations. There is, of course, economy was one of his strong points going into it. There is a lot of concern about reproductive rights and freedoms for women. So we'll have to wait and watch what his policies are, how he chooses to act on them, and what day one of Trump's presidency looks like.
In one of his earlier speeches, if I remember correctly, this was at the RNC in Wisconsin, he had mentioned, on the first day I come into power, if I'm back, I'm going to complete that wall. And I remember him saying, drill, baby, drill. So, you know, one can expect perhaps, I mean, we'll need to wait and watch, and we can perhaps get a better understanding of that from the correspondent joining us shortly. But, you know, what is in store in Trump's presidency? There is also talks, he's already had a conversation with Prime Minister Modi. So we know that, you know, US-India ties are going to remain or only going to build further from where they were left off between the two leaders earlier. And he's also had a chat with MBS from Saudi Arabia. So that is something which, again, well, we need to wait. And he's also had a chat with Benjamin Netanyahu. So Israel, Saudi Arabia,
and that's
India.
something that he's been harping on, that the day I am in office, I will stop all wars. How he plans to do that, he's never really gone into it in much detail, but that's something that remains to be seen as well. And you're right, in the 4-year term that he served, there were no wars, but this is something that he's bragged about a lot in the run-up to the election as well. And in fact, we were speaking to Ambassador Arun Singh yesterday, who said that when it comes to India-US relations, it's pretty much good news for India. There were some tiffs when it came to trade, but that is something that can be worked on.
He is a business person. I mean, he's always been an industrialist. I mean, he knows business. That has been his subject. So, you know, there are going to be concerns, if at all, somewhere over there regarding tariffs. He's already spoken of, a 10% tariff on imported goods. But that, of course, will impact the business part of things. But as far as tensions are concerned, war scenarios are concerned, he's being clear he wants to end the wars. And he never had wars in his term earlier. So, yes, I guess we'll have a better understanding of all that is in store in Trump 2.0. For more on this, we are being joined by Voice of America correspondent Carolyn Presutti, joining us live from Florida. Carolyn, pleasure speaking with you again. And I remember we were speaking to you yesterday. You were at the Trump headquarters, Mar-a-Lago, and you were giving us an understanding of all that's happening behind you. Give us a sense of what the red camp is looking like right now. How jubilant is it?
Well, actually, I'm still in West Palm Beach, Florida, and Mar-a-Lago, where President-elect Trump and his, I guess we can call her First Lady-elect, Melania, live about a kilometer away from where I am right now. And they spent the entire day in congratulatory mode. I was told that they were on the phone all day, various leaders around the world calling to congratulate Donald Trump on his re-election to the presidency, everyone from French President Emmanuel Macron, also Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel called. He spoke with Vladimir Zelensky of Ukraine. He spoke to various members, and he also received a call from President Joe Biden and also Vice President Kamala Harris. She made that call before she gave her concession speech today. He said also, we were told that he received a lot of calls from people who want jobs, right? Because he's going to be hiring a lot of government workers. It's a new administration. So I'm sure a lot of people are going to be pinging him and saying, remember me? Yes. Remember me from way back when, right? That's what they always do when a new president comes into office, into the White House.
All right, so a lot of people calling up for jobs as well. We've been talking about this, that there apparently will be a big role for Elon Musk as well. But I just want to come back to what you were saying about the phone calls that were made to him by incumbent President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, Kamala Harris has conceded defeat. However, she's saying that she hasn't conceded the fight that's fueled her campaign. She has vowed for peaceful transition of power. And from what we do know, apparently, Donald Trump is expected to meet Joe Biden as well. What are we expecting from that?
Well, at first, former President Trump, current President-elect, we're going to have to get used to the new title, right? Yes. President-elect Trump wasn't accepting offers from the transition team. But once he was elected, he said he must have changed his tune, because then when President Biden said, we'd like to help you out, we'd like to bring you into the White House, he said, okay. So I guess these two are going to get together, bury the hatchet, as we say, and Trump certainly said that last night in his victory speech. He said, we need to unite in this country. We need to heal. We need to forget about the divisions of the past 4 years and come together. So as an American, I can tell you that's what a lot of people are hoping for. We would like to see these divisions get softer, maybe erased, maybe more compromising, maybe more understanding the neighbor on that side of you and the neighbor on this side of you, and just come closer to what we believe in. After you look at the different demographics in this election, you find that it's very hard to put people into separate boxes where you describe whom they may vote for. It didn't happen in this election Tuesday. Just consider, Donald Trump got more of the first-time voter than Kamala Harris did. Now, remember their age difference, right? Which is fascinating. Now, he did go after the younger voter. They both tried to, but President Trump, especially for the male voter, right? But we had that happen a lot. And then the union votes, typically all Democratic. No, they were almost 50-50. They were 45-55, but still, it's just these traditional thoughts that we have said, they will vote Democrat, they will vote Republican, and that was a race last night. So I think a lot of the pollsters, a lot of the campaigns are going to rethink their strategy and how they reach out to different voters now.
Carolyn, I think pollsters going wrong has become the new trend this year that we've seen in elections around the year. But let me come back to something that you told me yesterday, that it was immigration which really got him to get those mass votes. And of course, economy is again something we've seen enough reports saying that is again one point where Trump was gaining more momentum amongst the voters. Now, going back to some statements that he had made, that on day one, if I'm elected back to power, I'm going to complete that wall. Then on day one, it'll take me just one day to end the war in Europe at this point. How much of that do you see on the radar? Is there any talk of those claims at this point now that we know it's going to be a Trump 2.0 soon?
Yes, I think that everything he said on the campaign in the first week that he said he was going to do, he's probably going to try and tackle. The deportations, I have no idea. And we've asked him this question when the president-elect has come to the media. We've said, how are you going to know whom to round up? How are you going to find these people so quickly? You're saying you're going to do this in 1 week or first week of the presidency. Well, and how are you going to arrange this? How are you going to organize this? And it's not etched in stone. Now he does have a couple months, right, until then. So he could organize it. But it's just the logistics. So when you think about this, you asked, do you think he'll carry that out? I do. And I really think that he'll tackle the economy. Look what happened today. Did you see our stock market? 1,500 points. It soared, right?
Yes.
And last night, when he was declared the winner, Bitcoin was the first to pop up. So that's encouraging to see that may trickle down to our economy if the stock market continues to climb, or at least stay steady until the remainder of this week and beyond. But, with Elon Musk, I think it'll be fascinating to see where Musk ends up in this administration. Given what we know about him,
there is a lot of conjecture.
Yes, there is a lot of conjecture.
What that is really going to mean and where exactly he fits in this entire puzzle, which is only going to unfold or come together soon enough. Thank you so much for joining in, Carolyn. Always a pleasure speaking with you. I remember all that you told us yesterday, and even now you've given us an insight onto what to expect and what to be cautious of as well. Thank you so much. That was our Voice of America correspondent, Carolyn Prisuti, joining us live from Florida.
Happy to be with you.
All right, we move further from here. Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz has fired his rebellious finance minister Christian Lindner from his government.
And this comes as the ministers of the Free Democratic Party had vowed to quit Scholz's coalition.
Scholz said that Lindner broke his trust on more than one occasion, with reports saying that the finance minister has been sacked for being too obstructive over disputes on the budget and also on passing reforms.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've just asked the President for the dismissal of the Finance Minister. I feel forced to take this step in order to avert damage from our country. We need a government that is able to act, that has the strength to make the necessary decisions of our country. That's what was important to me in the past 3 years.
Furthermore, Scholz added that he will be calling for a vote of confidence next year that would decide whether a snap election is required. Following his sacking, the former finance minister said that the German chancellor is leading the country into a phase of uncertainty.
That is why the federal chancellor cancelled his cooperation with me and the FDP at this evening's meeting of the coalition committee. His carefully prepared statement this evening proves this. Olaf Scholz is no longer interested in reaching an agreement that is viable for everyone, but in making a calculated break with this coalition. In doing so, he is leading Germany into a phase of uncertainty.
Meanwhile, members of the FDP have cautioned that they will quit Scholz's three-way coalition government after the sacking of Finance Minister Christian Lindner. However, the Greens party is assured that they will remain in the coalition until next year's elections.
Wir wissen natürlich, dass die Ampelregierung nicht immer den besten.
And in a significant development in ties with Afghanistan, an Indian Foreign Ministry official met the country's acting Defence Minister Mullah Muhammad Yaqub for the first time.
Well, they discussed ways to expand relations between the two sides. According to reports, Joint Secretary J.P. Singh met Yaqub, who is also the son of Mullah Omar, the former supreme leader of Taliban and Emir of Afghanistan from 1996 to 2001 in Kabul on Wednesday. Singh handles the Pakistan, Afghanistan and Iran brief, and the Taliban Ministry of Defence said that the two sides emphasized their common desire to expand bilateral relations, especially in the fields of humanitarian cooperation and other issues. There was no official word from the Indian side on the meetings.
This dialogue was part of India's efforts to step up engagement with the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, the name under which the Taliban have ruled the country since 2021. The Indian official also met Taliban Acting Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi and former Afghan President Hamid Karzai during what was his second visit to Kabul this year.
Japan leads gains in Asian stocks after Trump's win boosted Wall Street to a new record high overnight.
Trump's fiscal and trade agenda is driving big moves across global assets. The market verdict to Trump 2.0 is both optimism as well as some caution. Benchmark indices in Japan climbed for a third day, echoing the gains on Wall Street.
While those in South Korea and Australia ticked lower, gains in US stocks come on speculation that Trump's proposed tax cuts and regulatory rollbacks would boost business earnings. The Dow Jones index surged to a record high. The last time the blue chip Dow jumped more than 1,000 points in a single session was in November 2022. The S&P 500 also hit an all-time high, rising over 2.5% to mark its best post-election day in history, while a rally in tech stocks sent the Nasdaq to a new record as well.
Longer dated treasury yields and the greenback marked their biggest surge since the COVID-led rise in March 2020. Bitcoin spiked to a new all-time high of over $76,000. Elon Musk's bet on Trump seems to be paying off already, with Tesla stocks soaring.
In contrast, those assets widely considered anti-Trump crashed. A gauge of Asia ex-Japan stocks fell for the second straight day, led by the worries about US-China trade war 2.0 led Chinese and Hong Kong benchmarks to decline, pushing a regional stock gauge, excluding Japan, lower for the second straight day. The Mexican peso, yuan and the Iranian rial crashed to new negative milestones.
Greenback's best rally since 2020 weighs heavily on global currencies and commodities. Some calm has returned to the forex markets on Thursday after emerging market currencies tumbled by the most in 21 months as the dollar reigned supreme. Gold crashed nearly 3%.
The yellow metal fell about $1,000 below record highs in a single session, and this comes ahead of Thursday's key Fed meeting, which will be the focus for markets now after the US election.
Now, the Russian government's earnings from the oil industry shrank by 29% in October from a year ago.
And this comes due to lower crude prices and increased state reimbursements to the nation's fuel producers. Oil-related taxes fell to 1.05 trillion rubles or $10.7 billion last month from 1.48 trillion rubles a year earlier. And these revenues contribute significantly to Russia's war against Ukraine.
Revenues from oil and gas decreased by almost 25% to 1.21 trillion rubles, with 86% coming from oil production levies and so-called profit-based tax. This was driven by falling demand in China and the world's largest consumer of crude oil.
Rising supply from the United States, Canada and Guyana also weighed on Moscow's oil revenues. Russian Finance Ministry set taxes based on Urals crude priced at $63.57 per barrel. Urals crude is the main export mix of the country. The latest price is down significantly from $83.18 per barrel a year ago. Separately, Russia's seaborne crude exports plunged in the latest week, marking the biggest decline since early July and dragging down the 4-week average. Russia did not send any cargo from the Arctic port of Murmansk and sent only one from the Black Sea port of Novorossiysk between October 30th and November 3rd. And this resulted in a daily decline of almost 530,000 barrels. The fall in 4-week exports continued for a second week, and that decline comes despite major ports on the Pacific and Baltic coastlines running around peak levels. All right, next up, let's bring you a glimpse of what's happening in the world of technology. Here's the latest, starting with South Korea, which has announced new measures to combat a rise in deepfake pornography in the country. The government plans to increase penalties, use undercover officers, and impose stricter social media regulations. President Yoon Suk-yeol has ordered authorities to eliminate digital sex crimes, sparking a 7-month crackdown running through March 2025. South Korean task force has reported ongoing work with lawmakers to update laws, and this includes a recent amendment that criminalizes watching or possessing deepfake porn, punishable by up to 3 years in prison. The maximum penalty for producing or distributing such content has risen to 7 years from 5 years. Authorities are also pushing for stricter fines on social media platforms that fail to control deepfakes, alongside expanding school programs and public awareness campaigns to address digital sexual crimes.
French and Dutch investigators recently raided Netflix offices in Paris and Amsterdam as part of a tax fraud probe. Financial crime specialists in France conducted the search, with Dutch authorities simultaneously examining Netflix's European headquarters in Amsterdam. The investigation is led by France's Parquet National Financier, which is a specialized unit known for handling complex financial cases involving major international firms. Netflix confirmed that it is cooperating with the investigation, stating it abides by tax laws in all countries where it operates. Last year, Netflix's French subsidiary faced scrutiny from tax authorities for reportedly low revenue declarations despite high subscriber numbers.
Tech giant Meta has been fined around $15 million by South Korea. The country's watchdog has accused Meta of collecting sensitive user data and sharing it with advertisers without user consent between July 2018 to March 2022. This includes information such as users' religion, political views, and whether they were in same-sex unions. As per reports, Meta allegedly obtained information of around 980,000 South Korean Facebook users. This information was then allegedly used by over 4,000 advertisers. Moreover, the agency said that Meta failed to protect user privacy by failing to remove or block inactive pages, a security lapse that resulted in data leak of 10 South Korean Facebook users.